Welcome to another episode of What's the Hype podcast.
The building. And an interception, and you're not down by 10 anymore. Andre Howe, his second interception.
To get you the information that you need to start your own business and do your own thing.
And I felt like it gave me a good perspective.
I was not the first person to go through what I went through.
All right, welcome to another episode of What's the Hype podcast. I'm your host, H.Y.P.E, a.k.a. the Pod Disciple.
I'm your co-host, Andre Howe.
Man, we're excited. We have another episode to bring to you today with a special guest, one of my favorite guys, third-round draft pick out of Stanford University, 3-year starter, Justin Reid. Welcome to the podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Appreciate you guys having me on, man.
For sure.
Absolutely, man. We're excited, man. Our podcast and premise is just really about diving into our guests' stories, their journeys, the ups and downs. Because most people always see the finished product and just, it must have been so easy for you to be able to achieve the success you have. So we like to dive into it, talk a little bit about it. Acronym for our podcast, HYPE, stands for Helping Young People Excel. So, again, that's what it is about, giving information to those coming behind you. So our outline is pretty much the same. So we like to just start from the beginning. Just tell us a little bit about where you're from, what it was like growing up, and then a little bit about your family structure and your dynamics.
Yeah, so I'm one of 4, really 5. I'm the youngest in my family. I grew up in just outside Baton Rouge, Louisiana, in the suburbs, a place called Prairieville. My area actually blew up a whole lot after Katrina, because there's a large movement of people out of New Orleans into Ascension Parish, which is the area that I grew up with. I have 3 brothers and a sister, really 2 blood brothers, and we have another brother that, just super, super close family friend. He actually lives in Long Beach. Both my parents are together, been together 20 plus years. And yeah, I just grew up in an athletic family and an athletic household. My dad was a track guy. He ran track at LSU, had a record that stood for 20 years in the 110 hurdles. My mom grew up as one of 6 and had 5 brothers. And she grew up in the country too. I'm talking Opelousas, just outside Lake Charles, for all of you that know where that's at. So she know good food. She know how to cook. She throw down when she in the kitchen. But she also played semi-pro football, before she had all of us, So she tell everybody that we get our football talents from her, and Dad be like, we get our speed from him. My sister's the oldest, and I have an older brother, Eric, that a lot of people are familiar with, that has played in the NFL too. He's got 7 years in the league. And then I have another 2 brothers, Ryan and Shaq. And then my sister, Christina, did softball.
That's what's up, man. When did you start playing sports, and which sports did you start playing, and who inspired you to play sports?
Yeah, man, I just grew up my whole life playing sports, bro. It was like since I was 3-4 years old, it really all started with soccer. I feel like that's where me and all my brothers started with. Ryan is the only one who kept playing soccer all the way through college. But I grew up playing soccer when I was real young, like 10 years old, 12 years old. My father was big on us playing every sport that we could year round, When soccer season ended, we went to basketball. When basketball ended, we went to baseball. Baseball ended, we did football, track. We played all of them. I was on a swim team for 2 years too.
Wow.
I got 3rd in state in the freestyle. So, but eventually he just let us all kind of choose our own way, right? And Shaq ended up being a track guy. My sister did softball. My brother Ryan kept playing soccer. And me and Eric did football. And, it's funny because I originally didn't want to play football. But going into high school, my football coach, Benny Saya, my freshman year, I didn't come out in the summer of my freshman year to come play football because I was like, I'm just going to play soccer and track.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came and got me out of class. He grabbed me out of class because at this point, my brother Eric was doing his thing at LSU, being the star player that he was over there. So then he came and he didn't get it. He was like, you don't even want to try and play football? So long story short, he convinced me to come out and play. I was real upset after the first couple of weeks because I knew I was one of the better athletes. I wanted to be on the field, just a competitive spirit in me. Eventually I got my opportunity. just had a knack for it, and I had a little bit of help in that, having an older brother that played too, was able to, pass down some knowledge to me, which he's done my whole career. And since then the rest was history.
So, and that's perfect, because I really wanted to talk about you and your high school experience. And was there any pressure, being that coming behind your brother who had become this local star and state national star? So was it any pressure? I mean, you still, like you said, dad, older brothers, all that. So the pressure of being
100%. 100%. There were big shoes to fill. For a long time, I was Eric Reid's little brother. You know what I mean? And I don't feel like I grew out of that until after maybe my second, third year in college. And that's part of the reason why I also wanted to go too. Is kind of blaze my own trail, not be a carbon copy. But we are very similar players though. But growing up though, because he always did so well. He, like, even in high school, he was a Old Spice All-American and everything. He had all these accolades, and it was definitely big shoes to fill, and you felt that pressure. But at the same time, like, that's kind of what drove me, because I always wanted, and it was healthy competition, but I always wanted to be better than my brothers. You know what I mean? Even when I was a little kid, like 5, 6 years old, even when it was like video games, they would beat me, and then I'd go and spend hours on the game, reading the manual and learning all the controls just so I could come back and kill. And then as soon as I beat them, then they didn't want to play that no more. They want to play another game that they could come and beat me at, But it was definitely very motivating, and they pushed me to new heights.
Before we hop into the recruiting process with Dre, I just really want to ask you, both of you Louisiana guys, talking about football in the state of Louisiana being such a hotbed and breeding ground for some of the most incredible athletes. I just want to maybe hear about y'all perspective and maybe what is the reason for such talent coming out of Louisiana.
Yeah,
to be honest, go ahead. To be honest, I don't even know, man. The state is so small, but you got so much talent in the state, and it's like in pockets. You know what I mean? They got some in Baton Rouge, they got some like in the Assistant Parish, they got some in different parishes and stuff like that. So it's hard to like pick out the one spot where all the guys coming from. But a lot of come from New Orleans, but at the same time they come from all over the state. So it's weird, man. It's a weird state.
Yeah, and I think it's just the culture of Louisiana, with LSU and with the Saints, that all of our best athletes in the state all play, for the most part, football. You know what I mean? Even the good basketball players still want to play football. In other states, and especially in like California, California still, because it's so massive, that's why so many people come out. But we don't have a whole lot of other things to do. You know what I mean? We go out, we play ball in the street, we play ball, down the block. Just whatever. That's just all we had. We didn't have really, at least for me, growing up in Baton Rouge, we didn't have a whole lot of concerts, a whole lot of outdoorsy stuff to go do. We just played outside all day. Rumble, all that.
That makes sense, man. Being from Florida, being from South Florida, we have a lot of guys come out of the state, especially in football. But it's just like, it's been a part of our culture. It was just a lot of times the only way out for a lot of people. So you just kind of following those footsteps, man. So no doubt, I like I said, I always had much respect for the guys that are coming out of the state of Louisiana.
Definitely. Hey, Eric, talk about your recruiting process, man. Your brother went to LSU. It was all-star LSU, first-round pick LSU.
Yeah.
How do you make the decision to leave, Louisiana?
Yeah, and a lot of other people, everyone assumed that I was just going to go to LSU too. And shit, I even thought so for a long time, because my whole family did. My mom, dad, brother, sister, mom, dad, brother, sister had all went, and I grew up on it. I went to every game on Saturday night. Saturday night in Death Valley, you know what I mean? It was insane, the atmosphere that was there. But my recruiting process, I decided to take all my visits, and I visited Notre Dame, I visited Stanford, Texas Tech, LSU, and Oklahoma was my 5th one. And, I just wanted to kind of go out and see around, but really it was always, for the most part, it was LSU and Stanford. And I say Stanford for a couple of reasons, because it just ended up being the perfect storm, with my brother being drafted to San Francisco down the street, with Dwayne Akina, who had just come from Texas, who had coached a bunch of cats like Earl Thomas, Kenny Vaccaro, Sage Griffin. He had a long resume of guys. And then, it was just the opportunity that going out to that school had provided for just as far as networking and meeting people. But it was really tough, man, to make that decision. I actually didn't make the decision until the night before signing day because I was so back and forth. Even Akina thought he sat me down one time and he was like, "Hey, just be honest with me, man. You're going to LSU, right?" It was like, and I was like, "Man, I don't know yet, you know." But yeah, I made a decision. Still got LSU. Big love for LSU in my heart. But I made the decision to go to Stanford and never look back on it.
So just having that conversation with your dad or parents, was it how did they take it? How did they embrace like you making that decision?
Yeah. So my dad has always been 100% supportive of me and my brother just going out and making our own decisions. We were raised very independent. They raised us to really take care of our stuff. They let us have a longer leash, in the sense that as long as we were taking care of our business school-wise, making our grades, taking care of our business, then they kind of let us be able to have that responsibility and to make our own decisions. My mom, on the other hand, she really wanted me to go to LSU. She was kind of pushing me, like, no, you need to stay, you know, stay close to home. But just going back to how I was growing up again, like I did my own clothes. Like whenever I needed to be somewhere for an appointment, I let them know myself. Like I kept track of when I had an appointment, I had to be somewhere, and I just let them know I needed a ride. It wasn't them keeping track for me and letting me know.
Yeah.
So it was like taking that ownership and accountability. And I feel like that foundation that was laid really helped me just in life be successful to really, take responsibility and control of the situations around me.
Absolutely, man. That just all makes sense. And knowing you and knowing the type of person you are, that all makes sense. Now, you did decide Stanford, but how did having your brother just a couple miles down the road, how did his impact help you as far as making that adjustment from high school to college and just how you approach the game?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, his wife Jade is a great cook, so that was part of the deal for me to go out there. It's like I needed some home cooked meals. But it was very impactful because I would literally go over to his house, and the game that they played that week, he would break down the film with me and talk to me about the differences between college and NFL, and how typically in the NFL, things have started changing with the dual threat quarterbacks coming more into play. But typically in the history of the NFL, like quarterbacks aren't as mobile. Teams aren't as willing to have their quarterbacks be hit as much as they are in college. So in college, you'll see a lot more zone read, whereas in the league, there's only a couple of cats that are doing that. Like your Cam Newtons and Deshaun Watsons, and Colin Murray's and stuff like that. But he was able to teach me things before I got here, so that when I got here, it didn't feel as unfamiliar. You know what I mean? It was still new. It was still different, going through it and being introduced to my league and stuff, and I had my own growing pains. But not everything felt like it was the first time. You know what I mean? So just being able to go and watch him play and, kind of get a feel for the league, not only on the field, but also the business side of it, what life is like as an NFL athlete, handling your finances. He would tell me a bunch of stories of where guys may have went wrong, just financial issues, maybe how I saw the issues with kind of the problems that happened with family, that came down to money, both in our own family and then stories from other guys' families that he kind of just told me about. I was able to learn from that, and I felt like it gave me a good perspective whenever I did finally reach the NFL on how to handle these situations in the best way that I saw fit.
Hey, talk about your team success and your individual success at Stanford.
Okay, so at Stanford, when I first got there, I think it was coming off of a rough year. I think they had won like 7-5. I think the year before I got there. So the off season was very tense. It was very get back on track. And in that year ended up being pretty good. I remember one story. I was supposed to start my first game. I think it was the third game of the season. It might have been against Colorado. And I was 2 minutes late to the meeting. And my coach benched me for it. And, that was a valuable lesson for me because I was never late to a meeting or a game ever again. But, fast forward, I ended up starting about, a third of the way through my freshman year. really just getting a whole bunch of playing time. It was really like a 3-year rotation, starting really for the most part my sophomore year. We won the Rose Bowl my freshman year. Chris McCaffrey was there. Kevin Hogan was still there. Those are two of the big cats. Austin Hooper was still there my freshman year. Then the next year went to the Alamo Bowl. My sophomore season, I had just one interception, had a bunch of opportunities, didn't make the most out of all of them, but I was still playing a bunch of safety, and I also started transitioning into that nickel role. And then my last year, my third year, is when Coach King really started to, I started to really play DB. I played nickel. I played both safeties. I played dime. I played a couple of times corner, just for Akeem to switch me up to different techniques so I'd be able to play in different situations and really become a well-rounded DB. I ended up having 5 interceptions that year, ended up being a second team All-American. Was voted on to as a finalist for the Thorpe. Didn't make the top 3. Was like in the top 5, top 8. And, that really came to the decision to where I really had difficulty before I wanted to choose if I wanted to go to the league, because I was struggling with where I wanted to come back or not, because I really enjoyed my experience at Stanford, both, on the field and in the classroom. It was a really cool environment, a dope community. And it really just came back, okay, do I want to come back and be the first Thorpe Award winner that Stanford's ever had, or am I ready to go? You know what I mean? And one of the things that actually helped me is I sat down with Coach Shaw, the head coach at Stanford. He told me, it was like, I'm gonna be honest with you, you're ready to go. So that really struck home for me, and I respected the hell out of him for being so honest, because typically college coaches don't do that. What I mean? They want to keep their best players.
Absolutely,
But he told me I was ready.
And that's something that's not, like you said, typical, because college sports is a business, right? And coaches in most cases, they're going to do everything to kind of protect their jobs and, giving them the best opportunity to win. So the fact that Coach Shaw had that conversation with you and was willing to tell you, hey, man, you've done everything you could on this level. I bless you to go ahead and take your talents to the next level. So, I mean, that's big respect for that, because that's not typical.
And, and I even have another contrasting story to that, even with my older brother, whenever he made the decision to leave after his third year. The staff there had hired people. I don't know how legal this is with the NCAA. They had hired people to come and tell him, as, under the illusion as an NFL scout or whatever, is like, oh, you're not even, like, you might not even get drafted if you leave right now. So you probably would go undrafted. They told him this, after his junior season, and he ended up being the 18th overall pick. You know what I mean? So that just shows you the other side of the business, how, a lot of these, organizations want to keep their best players even in the college level.
I never heard anything like that.
That's crazy.
Man, it happens all the time.
Never heard anything like that.
It happens all the time. It happens all the time.
So, Dre, I guess you can just lead towards the pre-draft stuff.
Yeah, man. So, how was your pre-draft experience, man? I know mine was crazy. Just going through that draft stuff, it's a lot, dog. It's a lot. And where you thought you were gonna go? Or who you thought was gonna get you?
Yeah, man. I really thought I was gonna go to Pittsburgh or Carolina. That's where I truly thought I was gonna go. And then that same year was when the whole Kelvin Benjamin thing happened. And then they ended up really needing a wide receiver. I think they ended up drafting DJ Moore instead. And the Pittsburgh thing, they ended up drafting another safety, Edmonds. But I ended up taking a visit to some crazy, like 25 years, man. I'll never forget that year. It was the most hectic year ever. You're going from city to city, literally in 3-day trips. I go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, go on 3 different teams, take an off day back home, and then go on another 3-day trip. And it was unforgettable. It was very tiring. You didn't really sleep much, especially at the combine. Man, the combine isn't roses and rainbows like everyone thinks it is, man.
No way.
They can tell you too, man. It's actually a pretty, it's fun. It's a cool memory, but man, you didn't eat good, you didn't sleep good. They had you up at 5 a.m. There's a train that's going through the station the whole time. I was lucky in that I didn't have a roommate, but most people had a roommate, and God forbid your roommate snored or something like that. Yeah, man. But it was definitely a cool experience,
Yeah. Dre talks about his draft combine experience too, man. I worked the combine all the years that I was in the NFL, so knowing that you guys are getting pulled in so many different directions all day long, from the testing to the meetings to the train station where you're inside. It's organized chaos, man. It's definitely a better way they can do that, man. But
Definitely.
I don't think they want to change it. I just think they're comfortable.
What was the term they love using? It was like hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait.
Hurry up and wait. You're going to sprint there. You're going to get there on time just to wait an hour or two before you actually get to do anything.
Unbelievable, man. So, again, your draft process going around all these different teams. Let's talk about draft night, right? So, what was that like for you sitting and waiting? Because, again, we knew all the pre-draft ratings, first rounder, talent, So talk about just kind of sitting through that process and how you dealt with it.
When I had got my grade back, this pre-draft grade, it was set first round at the latest second round. You know what I mean? And so I was going into the draft very optimistic. I ended up doing it at home. I got to do the draft scene with my brother when he did it in New York in 2013. I ended up doing mine at home. I wanted to keep it small because I knew that at this point, there was some pressure in the sense that I knew there was some traction from all the attention that my brother and Colin Kaepernick were getting with the social justice protests. And I knew that may play a role. And, my agent was also informing me just how, shallow a lot of these execs are when it comes to decision-making and how it's not always logical or, how things that shouldn't matter to them. But I was still very confident I'll go in the first or second round. So that first night, the names start getting called. First day goes by. I didn't end up being a first-round pick, And I accepted it. I was like, okay, I knew this was a possibility. Second day comes around. They start going through the second round. The end of the second round comes to an end. At this point, I'm like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Like my heart sunk. I felt, honestly, I felt a little bit embarrassed, because I was like, I was so, excited. So I had such high expectation for myself. I'm very proud, and I thought for sure I was going to go in this certain spot, and then it didn't happen, man. And then actually, it's a funny story. I don't even know how much my family knows this, but I had walked out of the house. There was a draft party going on inside of the house, and I was so frustrated that I didn't say anything to anybody. I just slipped out of the house. I started walking down the street just to be alone with my thoughts, just about thinking about, what's happening to me? Why did this happen? And then while I'm walking down the street, I actually got the phone call from the Houston Texans. And it's a funny feeling whenever your name does finally get called, is that all those previous feelings of anxiety, even though I didn't go first or second like I hoped, whenever I did finally get that phone call, I still felt like it still was an amazing feeling, though, because I finally had a destination, I had a place that I knew I was going. In some ways they didn't have a first or second round pick. So, I tell myself to feel better, I was their first round pick.
Absolutely. I remember sitting in the draft room and seeing you fall, and they started to talk about, man, this kid fall to us, man. There's no question that we're going to take him. So just kind of seeing it happen, and it was like we got a first round talent in the third round. So although you knew you should have gone higher.
Yeah, and everything happens for a reason too, man. I honestly couldn't be happy where I'm at for a bunch of reasons. I have a couple family in Houston. The system, I feel like, coincides well to my play style, and I just met a bunch of guys too that Houston really turned into home for me.
Yeah, I mean when we drafted you, man, I was like, yeah, he gonna be good for us, man. Because I seen you playing all over the field. You played nickel, you played down. I said that's what the Texans need. That's how you play our defense.
Yeah, if you come to Houston, you go play man coverage.
Oh yeah, you gonna play man coverage in safe position. You gonna play man coverage. So you better know how to cover. And you know how to do that, so you excelled in it, man. That's why it was the perfect position for you, man. But so after Texas drafting in the third round, what were the thoughts coming in? And we had a good secondary. We had J. Joe, we had me, we had Jack. We had guys in secondary.
A ton of experience, a ton of guys that played together a long time.
So
I really just came in, and my first goal was to try and earn the respect of my teammates, especially in the DB room. Mm-hmm. And I figured that the best way that I could do that was by making the right calls, especially making safety. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No one is going to be able to respect you or even want you to be on the field if you're out there making the wrong calls, messing everybody up. So I figured the first way that I could earn the respect of my teammates was I was going to be the guy that when a call needs to be made, if I was asked a question, I was going to have the answer to it. And even if I said the wrong answer, I was going to say it confidently, because I learned back then if you go and miss at 100 miles per hour, because it's going to make it easier to remember what the right answer is. Whereas, if you know what I mean, if you're hesitant, you're not really sure, then the next time that question comes up, you're going to be thinking, you're going to be hesitant again, like, oh, damn, which one was the right one?
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm going to miss at 100 miles per hour if I'm going to get a question wrong. But I dove into the playbook. I just wanted to be on time. I just wanted to contribute. You know what I mean? I knew it started off with special teams. I was a PP. I embraced that role. I wasn't, you know what I mean? I didn't complain about playing special teams. I actually enjoyed it, you know what I mean? Because I just enjoyed being on the field playing and contributing. And I feel like that was a good segue into having some time whenever you actually got to get on the field and play some defense too.
Absolutely. And just knowing kind of how the process goes when making up a roster, man, a lot of guys, when they don't have the right mindset approaching special teams, they find themselves on the way out. No matter how talented they may be, you know what I mean? It's a process, and a lot of guys that end up making their career by being special teams guys. So, so definitely that mindset, I think, helped you in a huge way. But let's talk about the rookie season. And you came in, and it was, you started to contribute early. And I just wanted to, I know your brother kind of exposed you to the life in NFL and kind of the process. But when did you realize that it was a different level from actually, being on the field and playing? When did you realize that?
I would say that came in the first preseason game. Actually, we played Kansas City, because during that point, it was the first time being on a real field. It was the first time playing against, the very first play, I'm guarding Travis Kelce, and they threw the ball straight to him. You know what I mean? And it was just eye-opening to see that, you know what I mean, I'm on the field, and a lot of these guys are bigger, stronger, faster, but at the same time, I was like, but I can play with these guys, though. You know what I mean? And it was almost eye-opening in the sense that, you know what I mean, a lot of the stars you grow up looking up towards, especially in the college level when you're a kid, when you finally get here, and you do have a bunch of freaks, but it's like, when you embrace the rule that, you know what I mean, I'm as good as these guys and I can play with these guys, and you know what, I'm pretty sure that soon I could be better than a lot of them too. And you have that mentality and you attack every day with that mindset that you're just going to focus on your responsibilities and get better, and you're competing against yourself. Then just game by game, you just accumulate experience and you get better, So I would say my first moment that I really started to build my confidence my rookie season was when I was guarding Rob Gronkowski when we were playing the Patriots. And truth be told, I actually made a mistake on that play, because I was supposed to be guarding one of the running backs. It was 20 personnel in the backfield. But I was hyped, I'm thinking, okay, I'm guarding the tight end. I thought it was 11 personnel. So I went out to the tight end. Kevin Johnson actually fixed me and guarded the running back in the backfield. So I was on Gronk. It was third down. I was playing off coverage. Brady saw the rookie on Gronkowski. He was like, okay. He was licking his chops. He ended up throwing the ball his way, and I made the play. And the argument could have been made that it should have been a pick six. But that was the first PBU I made in a real-life football game. You know what I mean? I was happy with just that at the time. And at that point was like, okay, I know I'm here. I know I can be an impact player.
Right. No, man. And I'm going to let Dre speak to just in general relationship and when you came in and coming into the DB room. But I just want to mention, like, one of my fondest memories, especially out of that year, was, you started to get rolling, and we ended up playing up in Washington, man. And that interception in the end zone that helped us lock that game down, man. Just kind of talk about just how that opportunity, because from what I hear, I don't think you had many pick six in your career. So kind of talk about that.
That was the first touchdown I ever had, man. Wow. That was the very first touchdown I ever had, because I had some picks in college and in high school. I had a combined 1 return yard for all my college picks put together.
Wow.
Because I caught all of them going backward. You fall down, you can't get back up. And I got tackled at like the 3-yard line like 2 times in high school. That was the first time I actually scored a touchdown. You know what I mean? And I saw the lane. It just happened in slow motion. The tight end had ran a 7 route. And then he ended up making it a stop. And the ball just seen in the air, plucked it out of the sky, saw a lane right down the sideline. I had to turn on, 4.3 speed. I just took off, man. I was like, I'm not gonna let a quarterback catch me or nothing, man. That feeling when I finally got to the end zone, man, it was incredible. Like, it didn't even feel real in the moment. You don't even appreciate it at the time of what you just did. And then a couple plays later, you kind of reminisce. You're like, that play just happened, and it changed the game.
Absolutely. That was one of my fondest memories. So I definitely wanted to bring that up. But Dre, kind of talk about the relationship. Like I said, him coming in, a fellow Louisiana guy, him about his brother and things like that. Talk about, what that was like, having him come into the DB room, having him around as his rookie.
Yeah, man, I was excited when we came in. I was like, okay, we got another guy from the boot. So, I wanted to kind of get in touch with him, man. Start talking to him, see how his head was. But you always, you're smart. You're super smart. You knew everything. You know what I mean? You made sure you sat down and focused on stuff that you needed to focus on. And I just remember that one time when when you and Mitch got into it. With
man, that's one of the stories I was going to want to bring up too, man. Like,
yeah, you was pissed, man.
Me too. Is I had a bunch of big brothers around me, man, when I first came into the room. Especially with Dre. But also, with Tyron, K, Jack, and J. Joe, and all of them, I feel like contributed in different ways to kind of add into who I was. And, Dre kind of touched on a little bit, but, sometimes when, you're getting in this competitive stage, you and your DB coach might not always see eye to eye, but it's all in the spirit of trying to be great. This particular day, me and Midget weren't on the same page. I actually stormed out of the room, right? I left the room. And I was sitting in my locker, just mad. And the first person I see is Dre. And Dre came down, he sat down and talked with me, man. And you need that. You need that too, man. You need teammates that'll come out and, because this game can be stressful, it can be a lot of pressure. And you need guys that'll have your back and come down and sit to you and just talk to you, man, and get your head back straight. And Dre did that for me, brought me back into the room. It's a funny story now. I mean, it was probably pretty funny back then too.
It was.
But yeah, man, that's one of the that's a funny.
Yeah, man. And I watch you grow up, man. I wasn't playing at the time, so I was like, I was sitting back, just watching, and I watch you, grow, especially who you are right now too. You kind of grew into some way bigger than what you were. You know what I mean? You kind of you weren't like a baby. You know what I mean? You just a young-minded person. You know what I mean? You're young. You're 21 years old. You're a young kid.
Yeah.
So you had to kind of work through yourself, work through all that stuff, work through like the ego and all that stuff. But you definitely did, bro. And I'm proud of you, man. You definitely, turn yourself around.
Hey, don't let Dre fool you now either. If Jay would have played the whole season, he might have had 7 picks.
Absolutely.
He came back and set and was leading the team in picks with 3 and only played half a season.
Crazy,
man.
Crazy. No, that is funny. That is pretty funny. I also want to, because we typically like to ask guys about the business of the NFL, but you briefly mentioned, your exposure to that. But can you talk about just the overall? We understand the protests and all that stuff that was happening with your brother, but how did that impact you, and how did that take your understanding of the business to another level? Obviously, how it impacted you in the draft, but just overall.
Yeah, I mean, I just saw that. What it made me realize is that organizations won't always make the decision that will help them win the most games. Now, winning games will help a team make money, but organizations are going to make the decision that's going to help them, because it's a business, right? It's going to help them make profit, make money. And winning games helps you do that. But sometimes, every once in the blue moon, there'll come a point where organization has to make a decision between maybe the move that's going to help players help the team win more games, or the move that's going to help the team make more money. And for instance, in just like a completely football sense one, aside from the social justice protests that Cap still hasn't been able to, or my brother really haven't been able to shake back from, even with like the Gardner Minshew thing versus Nick Foles, where you had Minshew mania and they were selling the jorts and they were selling the mustaches and all that and this and other. And, Gardner Minshew might one day turn into a great quarterback. But right now, in my opinion, Nick Foles was the guy. But they were making so much money off of Gardner Minshew that became the organization's decision to go forward with him. You know what I mean? So that's what that means. That's another instance where you start seeing the business side of the NFL. And when it came to the social justice stuff, Colin Kaepernick is better than, in my opinion, he could be a starter. But at least he could be on a roster at the very, very least, right? But then it starts becoming a decision of, teams try and consider the risks and ticket sales and merchandise. And in the last couple months, that decision has flipped, right? Because the NFL has completely changed his stance 180 degrees on how they feel about what he was doing before. And he's become a martyr in a sense. But they really should have been doing that 4 years ago.
Yep.
You know what I mean? He's paid for it for 4 years, and he still has the effects of it to this day. And a lot of teams are talking about how, you know what I mean, oh, we're interested. We're interested. Well, you know what I mean? I know Colin. He hasn't had a call, And you just saying that you're interested isn't the same thing as action and actually inviting him out and him actually being there. You know what I mean? Without the action component, to me, all it is PR.
Yep.
All you're doing is PR. You're saving face.
Yeah. And with all that's happening at this moment, like you just touched on it, but it sounds good, but action, like you said, is the only thing that's going to really make an impact. And that's with everything across the board, from the front office down to the head coach and on the sideline. We're such at a disadvantage when it comes to those positions that, a lot of people now may be saying that their eyes are open to this stuff. But once we start seeing action, that's when we know things are really going to change. So, because again, it could be hype, it could be wave, but will we be able to sustain is really what I want to see happen.
100%. That's in legislator too. It sounds good with all the speaks, but we want to see action in laws, policies, and changes in the court system, to start making real changes about systematic oppression.
Right.
And we want to see players like Cap. We've also had other vocal players, like you even talk about Mike Thomas and Kenny Stills, and both of them are still playing right now. But they could tell you stories too of how they've been affected and how people have looked at them sideways, and maybe the notes they've received in the mail of people threatening them and stuff.
Right. Absolutely. So unfortunate. We'll get back on the field, Dre.
So yeah, man, I remember you was a rookie when I was there. Now you like the big dog.
It's crazy how fast that switched around.
That's crazy. It's crazy as hell how fast that transition went. But you the big dog now, man. So how you feel being a leader now in secondary?
I'm embracing it, and I feel like the stance that I'm taking right now is I try and do a lot of what you guys did for me, and that is I want to be a resource to all the guys coming in and to just get them situated in the culture of the room, right? So we had the tradition to where every Thursday night we would go and we would watch the Thursday night football game. Now it's just a way for us to hang out, So I want to keep that going. Just little activities, things like that to bring the group together, the chemistry, because it's more than just showing up in the building and being with them there. You have to hang out outside the building. I firmly believe that. You need to know the names of your teammates' kids. You need to know all that information, because all that is going to show up on the field with how y'all play for each other, So just things like that, things to keep the group together, fun activities, having the group chat, really just being a guy that's, anytime you want to talk ball, hey man, I'm there to talk ball with you. Like, I love talking ball. You want to talk about a coverage, you want to talk about a technique, you want to give me your perspective on things, let's talk ball, because when it comes down to us being on the field, it's going to be us out there. You know what I mean? So if we're on the same page and maybe we want to switch things up a little bit, but still within the grand scheme of the game plan, but as long as we're still on the same page, that's how we're going to be successful. So building that chemistry is immensely important.
It is very important, bro. It's very important, man. So keep it up, man. Because like I said, you're going to need that. Like when in the playoff game, when it's loud in there, super loud, you can't nobody y'all just kind of look at each other like, okay, I got you. You got me. That's how I feel, man. I mean, our best year was my third year when everybody was coming to DB night. Everybody came to DB night. Everybody came. And we were so close, bro. We were so tight. We played so well together, bro. And that's how it works, man. You can't, like, you got to know your teammates, man. If you don't know your teammates, you can't do anything. So
it can't be just a job. It can't just be something that you clock into and clock out. It's got to be more than that. It's got to be a fraternity. Guys got to hang out all the time.
Absolutely, man. And I'm proud of you as well, man. I was around from the beginning. And just to see you stepping into that role, man, so proud of you, man. I know you got so much more ahead of you. But I know you dabbled and talked a little bit about your brother exposing you to how to handle your money. Because I can remember just you coming as a rookie, man, and just how modest you were, because you see some rookies, they coming in with cars that are, you know,
Yeah.
6, 7, you know, 6 figures, $200,000,
Yeah.
$300,000 car. They might.
I know how much you make. I know you know.
Right. So, and I'm looking like, man, like, you know, I know how this thing works, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Your signing bonus, then you get taxed on that. You got to pay your agent. Then you got, you know, other expenditures throughout the year, and your rookie base is, you know, but so
and
much.
some guys try and live up to a hype or a front. You know, you can't keep up with the guys that have been in the league 6-7 years.
Absolutely.
You got to know your place and know your role. You know what I mean?
And you had that understanding. Again, I know that kind of comes from, you know, your brother being exposed, but it's different when you see that money hit your account, because you can be prepared for it. Like, hey, this is what happened. But when it hits your account, kind of talk a little bit about, like, you know, how did you keep that understanding of saying, okay, I'm gonna get me a modest car. I think you might have had an Acura or something for the most part, but how did you kind of say, okay, I'm gonna make sure that it's bigger than just me wanting to fulfill some of these needs, but really how I want to prepare myself long term?
Yeah, you know, the short answer was, I kept driving my college car all the way through. I drove it through my entire rookie season, right? But the short answer was I wasn't interested in all the flex and hype. You know what I mean? I was interested in getting on the field and being the best football player that I could be. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's where some guys go wrong, is they get to the league and think that I made it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here, I've arrived. Like, no, young bull, you're just beginning. You know what I mean? And that little bit of cash you change you're seeing, I say a little bit, relatively speaking, that you're seeing right now isn't anything compared to what you'll be able to make on your second contract. You know what I mean? What you're gonna make 4 or 5 years from now. Like, it's not about that first deal that you do. It's really about the second. You know. So that was just my mentality. You know, I didn't get caught up on the life outside of, you know what I mean, really football. You know, all the, you know, the going to the scenes, going on partying all the time. And I did that, you know what I mean? You're gonna do that when you're young. I did that too. I had fun. But I always had my priorities in check on what was important to me. And that, you know, at the end of the day, especially my rookie year, and even now still, was I'm coming here to play ball. I'm coming here to earn a spot on the roster, to earn a position. I'm coming here to make an impact on the field. And that was always, I wasn't focused on the car. And, you know, and as I, you know, settled in more and I got more comfortable and I started to know I'm going to be in Houston a long time, then I started settling in more, you know, and bought a house and got myself a nicer vehicle. But, you know, I think there's a progression to it. You can't just start off by coming in and blowing all your money. Because, you know, cars are a depreciating asset. You do that, and then all of a sudden you got to sell it soon. You just losing 20 fans just off rip right there.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Well, we know, you know, you got a long career ahead of you. You know, have you started thinking about what you want to do after you finish playing?
You know, it's funny you just said that. I actually just had a conversation with a guy named Ken, who is a merger and acquisition attorney.
Okay.
And that field really kind of you know, piqued my interest, because I always liked business. I'm a numbers guy. I suck at writing papers, but I could do numbers and math all day. But I also like, you know, paying attention to law and kind of how you can use it. You know, knowledge is power, and just knowing how to move around. You know what I mean? A system of rules, right? So he was explaining his job to me, and it just seemed like it was really the best of both worlds, because you're practicing, you know what I mean? You're getting to write the contracts, you're doing all the agreements, you're writing the language of it down. But at the end of the day, it's all business too. So you're paying attention to the logistics of the deal, as far as whether investment, you know, securities for investment, whether, you know, the liability, whether if you invest in this, is it a secured investment to where if it doesn't work out, are you getting your money back? Is it not secured to where you're going to lose the investment? What's the risk? All those are just really interesting to me. So I thought that would be a really cool field to maybe dabble into down the road.
Absolutely, man. Again, we and Dre, he's big on it too, just making sure guys are starting to think about these things while they're still playing, you know, and not just kind of once their career is over, now they're stepping out there cold and trying to figure things out and, you know, taking these different uncalculated risks. So we're big on that, man.
A quick message to them, and a lot of guys don't take advantage of this, but my message to everyone out there is you got to take advantage of meeting people and networking while everyone wants to know you right now.
Exactly.
Like right now, we're in a position, you know what I mean? We get to play football on Sundays, Mondays. Right now, everyone wants to know and talk to you. You got to take advantage of that to network people, meet people, go shake people's hands, go do interviews, internships with people. Because when you're done playing, 90% of those doors are going to close. You know what I mean? You're going to want to rely on the network that you created while you're playing ball.
Absolutely. And that's key. And I think that is very important. And we want to make sure we get that type of message out there. So, Dre, you got any other questions for him?
Man, nah, bro. Just glad to see you, man. Been a minute. But good talking to you, bro. You know, my boy, bro.
100%, man. All love, bro.
We appreciate you jumping on the podcast, man, taking some time out of your day during this time, getting ready for the upcoming season. We'll definitely be following you and supporting you all throughout the year, man. So appreciate you again. We know you're going to do well, but we're going to continue to support you, man. So thanks for jumping on the podcast.
Appreciate you guys. Thanks for having me on the show, man. You guys take it easy. Bro. Much love.